Okay, so we're in the middle of a series on the Ten Commandments. I insist on preaching from the Bible once in a while, once a month or so. I went to Princeton Seminary, spent 3 years there, learned a lot, got to share it. You're going to have to participate in this somehow if you're kind in your heart and you choose to come to church when I'm Bible preaching. And I know that it takes a lot of trust for a Unitarian Universalist congregation to sit in the pew and listen while the minister preaches from the Bible. And I have to tell those of you who are not normally here that I'm never going to say, you're going to go to hell. Never. So, because we don't believe in hell. That's what the Universalist part means. Unitarian means one God. Universalist means nobody goes to hell. So, just relax. So if you were here last month when I talked about the first commandment, you heard the story about Moses going up to the mountain, and he's getting the commandments. He's on Mount Sinai, and the people get bored waiting for him to come back down. And Moses' brother Aaron is in charge, and Aaron is talked into making an idol, a calf, a golden calf for the people to worship. He gets the gold by taking earrings and bracelets from everybody who donates the earrings and bracelets, and they melt them down and make this golden calf. Because the people are just, they miss having something to worship, something to touch, something to take care of, to put honey on or to dance around. And they're used to, in Egypt, worshiping something in the shape of a bull. So I guess they didn't have enough earrings to make a bull, so they made a calf. I don't know. So Moses comes down and sees them all dancing around this golden calf, and he's so angry because he's just been up on the mountain with God getting these commandments for the people, and he throws the tablets onto the ground, and they break in a million pieces. He has the Levites, who are the priests, go kill 6,000 people just laying waste with the sword around them. And then he grinds up the tablets and puts them in the drinking water and makes the people drink them. This is not really the story you hear in Sunday school, but that's in the Bible. So then Moses goes back up the mountain to get some more tablets. And he comes back down, and unsurprisingly, the first two commandments are, you shall have no other gods before me. And number 2, don't make any graven images of anything resembling what's in the heavens or what's in the earth or what's under the sea. Just don't make anything in the image of anything or anyone and start worshiping it. So the Muslims take this commandment very seriously and forbid the making of graven images, even in art. Not just to worship, but you shouldn't make a picture of an animal or a plant or a person. And so in the beautiful rugs and the beautiful architecture you see from the Islamic world, it's just patterns and abstract shapes in beautiful colors. And so that is Islamic art, and that's the reason why Islamic art looks like it does, because of this commandment that you're not allowed to make graven images. One of the things the Jews do with this commandment is, of course, you're not allowed to make pictures of God, but you're not even allowed to say the name of God. So when a Jewish person is reading the scriptures and the name of God is written in there, you don't read what it says, you just say the Lord. And Hasidic Jews will not even write the name of God, they write G-D in English. If they're, speak English. That's the way you write the name of. So you don't even write the name God. You don't say the name, you say the Lord. That's all you're allowed to say. And that just reminds you that this mystery is too large and too sacred to name. Because naming something, you exert a little control over it. That's why, when your boyfriend gets another girlfriend, you say her name wrong just to bother him. Like you go, so how's Shirley? And he's like, it's Shelley. I'm like, oh, whatever. The name has power. Christians have done different things with this commandment. And in the early days, Christians were drawing Jesus and the disciples a lot. In the catacombs, you see pictures of Jesus and the disciples. The Orthodox Church decided, the Greek Orthodox Church split from the Roman Catholic Church. That's another sermon about why they did that. But the Orthodox Church allowed two-dimensional images only. So you could make this, those beautiful icons, the Byzantine icons with the gold leaf around and the face. That is what they were allowed. And there's a beautiful screen in a Greek Orthodox church that has paintings of Mary, the saints, the disciples, Jesus on them. In the Roman Catholic Church, you were allowed to go 3 dimensions. So most of you know in Roman Catholic churches there are statues of the saints and the statues of the Virgin and Virgin Mary holding Jesus, and the people, there are images that the Catholic people will give a tremendous amount of respect and love to, and whereas the Protestant Christians say that is idolatry because they're worshiping the statue, the Catholic theologians say that's stupid. You're not worshiping the statue. You're worshiping God or the spirit that is in the statue, which is very different. And so people in religion sometimes misunderstand each other. This is not news to you. And when you have differences back in the day, the people in one faction, the two-dimensional faction, would go into the churches with three-dimensional images and smash them. And then the three-dimensional folks would go into the two-dimensional thing, the sanctuary, and smash them. And that's breaking up the icons. It's called iconoclast. You're called an iconoclast if you break up the icons. And so we use that word a lot about someone who takes the holy things that are held sacred in our culture and smashes them to smithereens. That's an iconoclast. So just a little tidbit for your next party. So one of the things the Protestants were protesting, they're called Protestants because they were protesting. One of the things they were protesting was the images. So in a Protestant church, a sort of a purely Protestant church, all you'll see is white walls, no art, and no stained glass windows, just plain windows. Now, some of the churches decided that they would allow stained glass windows and they would allow art in the churches. But the folks who are very serious about their Protestantism will not allow anything that Catholic in their sanctuary. And apparently you guys, when you started getting the candles, somebody was mad enough to not come back because it was just too Catholic. That there is a kind of a Protestant root to Unitarian Universalism that, we don't have paintings on our walls, and, we don't really know why sometimes, but it's because of that, because of this commandment. So one reformer named Zwingli, he had the new pipe organ removed from the church because he felt that people were starting to worship the pipe organ. Because they would say things like, oh, the music lifts me up so much. I feel closer to heaven because of this organ music. And he thought that should only come from God and not from the organ. And apparently he was not of the school of thought that thought maybe God was in the music. No. So the organ had to go because it was becoming an idol. And many Protestant sermons about this commandment talk about things that we use in place of the Spirit to get to wholeness. Like, we're going to think if we get this cool new phone, then we'll finally feel whole. Or if we go to this series of classes, we'll finally feel whole. Or if we get those clothes, or if we get this job, we'll finally feel whole. And then the sermon says you're not going to feel whole with any of those things. In fact, all the religions of the whole world say those things are chasing an illusion. They're not going to make you happy. You have to become happy by serving other people, by loving, being loved, and learning how to be still. Those are the things that make you happy, just in case you were wondering. The last sermon, I quoted Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a Unitarian minister. He also hated people quoting other people, but he's not here. And so what he said was, a person will worship something. Make no mistake about that. Everybody is worshiping something, and what we are worshiping, we are becoming. So whatever is of central worth in your life, we talked about this last month, that is like God to you. But the second commandment is about images, not making putting something else in place of God, but by picturing God. And why is it so wrong to picture God? This is the question. So how do you have an image of God? I think people make images of God. I don't care about the statues. I don't care about the icons. I think because those are holy because people invest them with respect and love. And so they do have power for the person who invests them with respect and love. But people in our world, and especially in our political world and our religious world, make images of God by being sure that they know what God is like and what God likes and doesn't like. And they'll say with a perfectly straight face, God hates people who do this and God loves people who do that. And that, I think, is breaking the second commandment and making a graven image of God, because they didn't start the sentence with the words, I could be wrong. Pope John the 23rd was known to say that the very first syllable anybody would utter when they reached heaven was, oh. Lao Tse, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, begins this book of wisdom with, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. So as soon as you name something, you separate it from the one. But okay, I'm just going to give you a really quick glimpse inside my head. So when I'm writing this, I'm thinking, okay, you shouldn't name anything, but if you don't name anything, how are you going to talk about something? So you've got to name things in order to talk about them. So as soon as you're talking about something, you're separating it from the one. So how do you talk about something? Well, keeping in mind that it is just the one. And don't we believe that everything is holy? And so even if it's separate or one, it's all holy. And do we believe everything is holy? I mean, really? Cancer cells? Is God in everything? Because if you are a person who goes, oh, I just believe God is in everything, then you have to go, okay, God is in the cancer cell too? Or is God only in the nice stuff and not in the destructive stuff? Is God only in the creative stuff and not in the stuff that tears us apart? Or could there be love in destruction too? I don't know. And I hear people who go, oh, I just can't even see dolphins leaping through the ocean at sunset without believing in God. I'm like, yeah, but if you're going to look to nature to help you believe in God, then you've got to go to the hospital and watch people kind of wasting away because of nature also, and see God in that too, right? Because you can't really have the God of the beautiful and nice and have that be it. Or you could have a world where the beautiful and nice is always at war, creation is always at war with destruction, and God is at war with whatever's not God. I don't know what that would be. So are good and evil in a war, and are there places where God is not? And some theologians get around this by saying, well, evil isn't even a real thing. It's just a place that is not God. But then you have to believe that there's a place where God is not, so you can't say God is in everything. See how confusing this is? Once you have the time, which you all afford me, the time to really think this through, all I want to say to you is, in order not to make graven images, we have to just keep in mind That as soon as we start talking about the mysteries, or really even as soon as we start talking about another person, or even as soon as we start talking about something that happened, we're in our own little world. And we could be wrong. And so we should start a lot of sentences with, I could be wrong, but, and I think starting out with the idea that as soon as you open your mouth, you're mistaken in some way is pretty relaxing.